I wish my father and some of my uncles did not give me some of the, and my grand uncles. That's my grandfather in the PTR right here, though. Um, I wish they wouldn't have gave me like the most negative aspect of a lot of things because it always made me wonder about people on the negative side. And even sometimes when people were showing me too much positive, it made me feel like something's off about the person because of what some of the things that they told me when I was younger. You know, you younger, yeah, the older people, they do have an influence in your life, even though you're developing your own mentality and feelings. They have an influence on our process. So that's what happened. They were giving me too much negative aspects sometimes. So it made me look on certain type of outlooks on certain parts of life negative. What happened to me. So I had to learn sometimes that everybody they're not negative, even though their shell is negative, but the deeper aspect of the person they're positive. And if you know, you know.
Thank you for that. So I'm just going to bring it back to the protection piece of this of the community question part of it as well. Anybody, like, I remember there was this group, and it inspired me to do what we do sometimes here in the city where I'm at. And it was called Dads on Duty, and what they was doing was there was a bunch of dads. There was like a lot of fights happening around schools, and they got together. They all wore t-shirts, and they came by after school let out, and they made sure people, the kids, watch university and being there, not only being there, taking some kids out to lunch and being a positive influence on them, so doing what we can to quell some of the rowdiness that's happening there too as well. Uh, there's a lot to say. I know, is it changing the world right now? Absolutely not. But we've seen some results when it comes to the areas that we're in aren't as, like, people aren't nervous to be outside as they used to be. People are starting, like I said, we're going now getting more members on it, and the idea is to be that male presence in these areas where we avoid, right? Sometimes when we get a level of success, and I see myself doing this a couple years back, is that I'm like, man, when the last time I was over the area? When the last time I was back over here? You know, I know people over here, but when the last time I was there? And so I'm making it my business at least once a week to get these guys together, or maybe twice a week, get these guys together, and just be in that area, be that presence I have to be, right? If something is happening, refresh is happening, be there to run an interference, right? And I think that it's been very, very interesting to see. And I know, when I first started this, people were saying how dangerous it's going to be and you can get shot, but that's not what we're seeing. These young men come up to us, right? They see the cars we pull up in sometimes, and like, oh, why'd I get this? And then talking to them, and there's one kid, and kid is really inspiring, is that, like, he, like, now is trying, like, he's literally calling me every day, like, hey, how do I get like you? And we having these conversations where I've seen him before on trying to become a jump up boy. So I'm not saying it's what everybody has to do. Give examples of, like, if we, even though it may seem like it may not work, it may seem like it may not be a thing, if you just try to have some, like, that level of involvement in your own communities where you're at, you may be surprised who you can reach out and touch to, and that you can have that protector. It's like, we're all protectors here, we're all leaders here, right? And I would love to see if we can do it, we can go back to the communities we grew up in, or we are here. I'm not saying nobody's doing it now, but how powerful that could be if every city we had one part of the neighborhood we went there and we was that presence. And how much of a difference could that make?
And bro, for people dads who still have kids, like school age kids, there's a program called All Pro Dads that it's like it's kind of through the NFL. But once a month you go to and have breakfast with the kids in school, so dads, and there's a topic that you cover for that month. Um, yeah, so it's kind of similar to that program, but it's a good program to be in.
Absolutely. I love it. Can you share that in the chat too as well? I want to.
Yep.
I know one of the things I always tell people, like, I mean, people younger, some of the learning stuff at the neighborhood, go explore. What I mean by go explore, like, I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, and I grew up in the 50s. If I know anything about Kansas City, I used to always go to the plaza or park or lake and stuff like that, where they had like the nice restaurants or they had the nice living areas and stuff like that. And just to be around that environment, knowing like, okay, one day I can be living like this, but also you put yourself into different areas, surrounding yourself around different areas. Your outcome when they network is a little bit different. Not just something every month. I think teaching youth like you need to teach youth about that.
Tony, this is Eagle. I'll tell you a little story about my pops, right? He came out of Kansas City, Missouri, right? He was the smallest in his family, right? A $1.05, what have you, right? Large family, on the farm, as country as you can get for Kansas City, and you know what I'm talking about, right? Racism is so deep in that time period, Kansas City, where he came from in the 40s, he didn't know a way out. You see what I mean?
Well, but I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you quick. I'm sorry. Is this pertaining to the question about community protection? Or is this talking about you? I don't mind you. Like I said, I appreciate the submission. I just want to make sure we're talking about what we're talking about right now, too, as well. I definitely don't want to get derailed.
No, go ahead with your thing, bro. I was just trying to bond with him, but go ahead.
Bond, absolutely. But I was saying, I was curious about.
It's all good. The moment's done. It's good. Go ahead.
All right. Well, okay, before you do that, then let me do this thing real quick. Is there anybody else want to share when it comes to this question before I allow them to bond, and then we move to the next?
So let me bond with you for a minute. I do the same thing in my neighborhood, right? And one of the ways that I engage fathers, right, when I see that with children, right? So first you go through the training, neighborhood watch, all of those things. I don't like sending children to jail, right? At the same time, you have to learn how to discipline yourself, right? Because you can't father the world, and you can't father everybody's children, right? So where's the balancing act, right? And I like your approach. So the approach that I took was start with where you are, right? Start with your neighborhood, your people, your family, right? And children will test you, and strangers will test you, and other fathers will test you. Is this your business? Mind your business. Why is this your business? All of that, right? And it gets to the point of what we're talking about. As adults, as men, right, and as fathers, we make up for in our adult life what we did not get as children. Do you know what I mean? Right. One of the strange things about becoming a man is that by the time we realize it mentally, we are 20, 30, 40, 50 decisions into it, right? Whether that's sexually, what have you. So one of the things that I learned is that we begin to parent ourselves when we come to manhood, right? Because sometimes there's no more excuses. Sometimes people don't have two parents. They don't even have a father after a certain time period. You see, they have no mentors. So what do we do, right? Because the world is not there. We're not all born with the same amount of resources, right? One of the things that I like to do is we don't need the government and resources and the police. We can start these conversations with other fathers. I opened up my home, right? So when it came to crime, I interceded. Do this in the streets. Let's not involve state and blah, 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 and police and all this. Let's have a conversation as men, right? As fathers, right? And so you have to create a free space of that because there's on the side of the parent as well that comes out. Do you see what I mean? Some parents, some fathers are not even conscious of this. They're not even conscious of the spiral that they're giving what they got as a child, right? And how depleted they were because they never saw another example, do you see what I mean, of anything else, if that makes sense. Right. So some people have never seen that example of a black man or a father, right, raising their child well and doing everything legal and wearing that $200 suit or that $500 money. Those are things that we can do as adults to ourselves, right? And I want to be long-winded. Before we even have that child, after we have that child, it doesn't matter. Do you see what I mean? Even if the child is 18 or 20, being a parent, being a father is a lifelong journey. And part of that, and I'll just rest with this, is going back and coming full to the father we had, right? And making peace with that, hopefully before they pass this earth, right? Just my 2 cents. Broken men make broken families. Do you see what I mean? Which make broken fathers. And there's never, there's never a point where we're out of time. As long as we're breathing, we can heal ourselves. Do you see what I mean? As men, as fathers, and then it cascades to all the people around us, right? And so I heard the question before, right? What were the greatest examples in your childhood? I have many, but one of the greatest lessons that I got is that we as men, especially as fathers, are providers. And it's not always financial. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's physical in terms of protection, right? Sometimes it's spiritual. Do you see what I mean? How do you take yourself out of conflict so you can survive as my child and live just even a basic in 70s and 80s, and then come the conversations about jail and education and racism and sexism and classism. All of that, you know what I mean, is preparation in raising something up, right? To be at least as good as how you came up, if not better.
Amen, brother.
A lot on Clubhouse, and I'm not going to be very specific. See people speak about.
Hey, Gemini, you sound pretty low right now. I don't know if it's just me.
Yeah, we can't hear you, brother.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Oh, much, much better. Yeah, there you go.
Loud and clear, brother.
Okay, I'm not sure what that was. Basically, I was saying that I see that on Clubhouse a lot now, right? Where you hear people talk about communities or maybe black women or black men in a certain light, and you realize that they didn't have that role model. They didn't have that connection with that parental figure. They didn't have that guidance from a father that showed them the positive side of who we are from young. So we have to be very proactive in making sure that we are those role models for our upcoming generation so that they have something to look to. And you have to do it. You can just talk about it. You can't say you should do this or you should do that, because what they're actually going to do is what they see. If they see you doing well, if they see your work ethic, if they see your moral compass, they see the way that you provide, they see the way that you protect, then they're going to follow suit. If you say something and do the opposite, they're going to do exactly what you're doing, not what you're saying. So that's an important part also. Black, are you there?
Yep, I'm here making sure. That way, make sure I'm not. Absolutely. Like I said, me, it's all about the action, man. And make sure, yes, we can talk all day about this, but do action. No action's too small. No deed is. There's no such thing as big or small deeds when it comes to these things. The small things you do can be a major influence to anybody in your area. So I just challenge everybody to make sure that you're doing at least do something once a week, once a month. Doesn't matter. As long as you do something, you never know how big of an influence that can be to somebody.
Yeah,
all right.
Go back. Go ahead. Can I speak? Go ahead. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, to everybody across the world. Good to see you. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Lisa. Miss you, Lisa.
What's up, bro? How you been, man?
Oh, what's up, Haitian? Yeah, Haitian. Oh, I've been good, man. You know what I'm saying? Enjoying the sun. It's Gemini season, man. I'm having time of my life, bro. You know what I'm saying? Birthday, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But I will say this, like, I hear